Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Welcome back, everybody. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do my best to not bounce around in this episode. I have much to cover, as one might expect, so let me mention this first. There, of course, is still a great deal that's being discussed regarding the Trump attempted assassination. Again, if it's all to be believed the way that it's being dished out to everybody. There are a number of questions, of course, that continue to remain and, of course, get bigger, and the longer that they go unanswered, the more questions people ask. And I don't think that this is necessarily a bad thing. However, it just raises way more questions with every passing day. I saw a video the other day of when Trump was being taken off stage and he was put into the SUV, and, of course, the Secret Service agents or U.S. Marshals, whomever they were, were around the SUV. And then, of course, you see the one larger lady fumbling with her gun and looking around aimlessly. And then she makes her way around to the right side of the SUV and then toward the front of the SUV as it starts to leave. Once that SUV is gone, behind this particular trailer, to the right of that SUV, are individuals standing there wearing fatigues with rifles, and they're just standing there. Again, they're in front of the parked SUV and to its right, on the passenger hand side, basically, of the front bumper. And they're all lined up just sitting there waiting. And they don't come out until the SUV is gone. And then as soon as the SUV leaves, these dudes in fatigues run straight out toward the actual stage. It was beyond odd. Again, why would they just be standing there if they were armed and in fatigues and had proper body armor, which they appeared to have? It just seemed like an odd placement for them, and then finally an odd movement once the president was gone. And again, on top of that, given the fact that this individual who, again, appeared to die at the scene, this Corey Comparatore, my apologies, again, you would think that his body would be investigated. You would think that the size of the wound in his head, which apparently, again, he was shot in the head by all witness accounts, including a doctor who allegedly gave him CPR or chest compressions at the actual scene, you would think that they would examine his body more thoroughly. It doesn't appear that this has happened. Of course, we haven't been told that it's happened, not that we would be told, but it just seems beyond strange. And again, I understand to some extent who's in control here. You have three-letter agencies in control of this entire thing, so it's not like I'm expecting them to actually tell us the truth. I'm not a fool. But at the same time, all of that movement should have everybody sort of wondering as to what exactly is going on, not to mention, again, the caliber of bullet that was used. It's just beyond strange. So, again, my recommendation is that you check out the Substack that I put up there. Again, it was an individual going through all the different sounds from the different angles and the different distances, and again, claiming that there were at least two or more shooters potentially. Certainly, of course, Secret Service agents or police shooting back in a general direction, but then again, who's to say? The thing is so muddy that it's just beyond odd. There are also, by the way, and this shouldn't surprise anybody either, that there are endless YouTube videos now from the very individuals who consistently have YouTube channels about guns and shooting ballistic gel and seeing what different calibers of bullets do to different people. It would be, again, next to impossible and or odd that Donald Trump would be hit in the ear and not have more of his ear gone, I guess. Or even more damage to the surrounding area, including bruising and or blood vessel ruptures of some kind. Again, I'm not doubting that a person could be grazed in the ear or that a bullet could go past a particular person's ear and not do a whole lot of damage, but just enough to cause it to bleed. I'm certain that that can happen. But again, if he really was shot, then he certainly dodged one, without a doubt. If that wasn't the case, I'm speculating here and I'm thinking out loud. I've just heard a number of different angles from so many different people. You have to take into account something like a remote blood capsule that has a remote trigger on it that was, placed behind his ear. I'm not claiming that that was the case. I have no idea. I find the entire thing, again, remarkably odd. And in the middle of all of this now, you have Senator Ron Johnson, who's openly calling for anybody to contact him with numerous information or any other videos that they have. He's openly talking about, again, wanting to dive deeper into this and see exactly what's going on. Scratching the surface is what he claims they've already done to this point, and that's all they've done, but they want to dig deeper as to what actually happened. I also find it interesting, again, that Donald Trump at the RNC convention during his speech said that he wasn't going to talk about this anymore, that this was going to be the only time that he talks about this, and yet he takes the stage in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he brings it up consistently. And then in private interviews, again, I think he and J.D. Vance had an interview with Jesse Waters. He brought it up again. So, I don't know. Again, there's a lot of back and forth, and this just continues to it continues to become more suspicious. I do find it funny, however, that endless people on the left are now questioning the entire thing and questioning the motives and questioning a number of different stuff. And again, that was happening almost immediately. But again, who's to know? If we don't have all the evidence, if we don't have all the communications, if we don't have all the angles, and if we're just resting on particular explanations of particular things from one person or another, then that's not really getting to the bottom of what actually went on and what actually happened. Again, if this were a normal shooting of any other kind, you would have a deep investigation. You would have individuals immediately coming out and saying that they're investigating this. And yet, no one's done that. Again, the furthest that Ron Johnson has said is that he's encouraged individuals to send him information so that he can take a look at it and his team can take a look at it. There's whistleblowers out there, et cetera, et cetera. Again, what is this going to lead to? It's going to lead to probably the immediate resignation of the Secret Service director. I mean, she's finished. And again, there's no credibility there, so she's gone. That's usually why people leave these positions, again, among other reasons. But if all loss of trust is gone in a particular individual, certainly in the eyes of the general public who don't understand the deeper meanings of particular things, then certainly she'll be gone. And by the time you hear this, she probably would have already resigned, potentially. With that said, what would that lead to in the future? A congressional hearing about the particular thing just to muddy the water even more for the general public? I mean, who's to know? You would assume that they would have to subpoena her to bring her in, to have her questioned either by the Judiciary Committee or, the Senate or House Oversight Committee or whatever it may end up being. But it seems like it's just going to turn into a dog and pony show when it's all said and done. And again, in a normal situation with the normal shooting, certainly of an individual of Donald Trump's caliber, so to speak, no pun intended, you would think that they would take it a little more seriously than they have. Of course, it's government, and it's a president of the United States, so the exact opposite is true also. Why would they take it seriously? Why would they dig into this? Because, again, all roads lead back to government, most certainly. And as we've known for a very long time, shooting him and taking him out was pretty much their last option, and it kind of still is. I'm almost certain that they're still not interested in having him around even after all of this. Even after all of the galvanization that has existed among numerous individuals leaving particular parties, people on the left saying that they're now going to vote for him, so on and so on. So it doesn't mean that the enemy's going to quit. They certainly have plans for us, and we know that, and I've been over that on the show, and you're well aware as well. So there's that. I'm almost at a loss. There's just too many moving pieces at this point. It's far too confusing. Not enough answers, more questions than answers, and every single time something apparently gets answered, there's 100 questions that come with it again. You've probably seen, too, that mock-up, that digital, whatever it is, virtual world mock-up of the actual shooting, allegedly. And, it's interesting, and I know a lot of people are going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and, again, they're selecting out the shots and the sounds associated with it and all of it. I just don't know how they can determine the actual trajectory, let alone the caliber of bullet, let alone the gun that was used, when we've not seen any of those things yet. And again, like I said earlier, I find it interesting that it's not just us bringing this up. It's actually whack jobs on the left. I mean, the left, for the first time in their entire lives, are actually doubting a particular thing and asking questions. So clearly their hypocrisy knows no bounds, which, we always knew that to be the case. But yeah, it's very funny and remarkably interesting. And again, if a person really lost his life, then that's a horrible, horrible thing. And there's certainly ample evidence that that's the case. I mean, the person dropped on camera, and you can see it. And there was plenty of blood there. Again, assuming that all of that was real, and I have no reason to believe that it wasn't real. There's just way more going on here. And again, far too many questions and not enough answers. So it's not that I'm going to walk away from it permanently. I'm just going to put it down, and unless something comes out that's, beyond definitive and we can actually arrive at a logical conclusion, then certainly I'll bring up more related to it. But thus far, I'm just kind of pushing it to the side a little bit because I really just don't know anymore. Let me mention this next. This has to do with CrowdStrike, and again, the timing of CrowdStrike turning things off or being turned off was remarkably fortuitous, I would say, and the timing was impeccable. Let me read this first. This really was a nice little roundup and a nice summary of CrowdStrike, and it was on the Chan boards over here. And I think I linked this on Gab, but either way, I've got it right here. I've got a hard copy of this, and I'm just going to read this. It said the following. It was titled "The Shot Heard Round the World 3, The Strike Heard Round the World." It said, let's see here, introduction, what is CrowdStrike? CrowdStrike is a prominent cybersecurity technology company founded in 2011 by George Kurtz and Dmitry Alperovich. Every single time. It specializes in providing endpoint security, threat intelligence, and cyber attack response services. CrowdStrike's Falcon platform leverages AI and machine learning to detect, prevent, and respond to cyber threats in real time. With a client base that spans various sectors, CrowdStrike has become a key player in the fight against cybercrime, so they say. CrowdStrike's primary role in cybersecurity is to protect organizations from a wide range of digital threats. The company's Falcon program is designed to provide comprehensive endpoint protection by detecting and mitigating threats such as malware, ransomware, and advanced persistent threats, or APTs. By utilizing cloud-based analytics and threat intelligence, CrowdStrike helps businesses prevent data breaches and minimize the impact of cyber attacks. CrowdStrike has collaborated with the FBI on several high-profile investigations. The company's expertise in digital forensics and threat intelligence has been instrumental in uncovering and analyzing cyber intrusions attributed to state-sponsored actors and criminal organizations. This partnership highlights CrowdStrike's pivotal role in national cybersecurity efforts and its contributions to law enforcement operations. It says CrowdStrike's connections to the CIA are rooted in its leadership and their prior affiliations. Dmitry Alperovich, one of the co-founders, has provided cybersecurity expertise to various government agencies, including the CIA. The company's technology and intelligence services have been utilized to enhance national security measures and protect critical infrastructure from cyber threats. And then below this, again, the same article, the individual puts together a giant history, and I mean it's giant. It's too long to read here on the show, having to do with all of the Q posts that reference CrowdStrike, which it most certainly does. But let me at least read the beginning of this, and then a few of the Q drops and predictions associated with it. The post below this, and I'll link this in the description below if you want to take a look at it. It says the following. It says, quote, CrowdStrike has established relationships with Israeli intelligence companies, leveraging their advanced cybersecurity technologies and expertise. These collaborations have strengthened CrowdStrike's threat detection capabilities and expanded its global threat intelligence network. The synergy between CrowdStrike and Israeli cybersecurity firms underscores the importance of international cooperation in combating cyber threats. It says Q connections to CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike's role in political events. It says, quote, CrowdStrike gained significant attention in 2016 when it was hired by the Democrat National Committee to investigate a breach of their email systems. CrowdStrike attributed the hack to two Russian intelligence-affiliated groups, Cozy Bear and Fancy Bear. The company's findings were pivotal in shaping the narrative around Russia interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. CrowdStrike's report concluded that the cyber attacks were state-sponsored, which led to further investigations by U.S. intelligence agencies. In the lead-up to the 2020 U.S. presidential election, CrowdStrike continued to play a critical role in securing political organizations from cyber threats. The company provided cybersecurity services to various campaigns and political committees, ensuring the integrity of election-related data and communications. CrowdStrike's proactive measures aim to prevent any repeat of the 2016 breaches and to protect the electoral process from foreign interference. It says beyond its involvement in the DNC hack, CrowdStrike has been linked to several other high-profile cybersecurity incidents. The company's expertise has been called upon in cases involving major corporations and government agencies facing sophisticated cyber threats. CrowdStrike's threat intelligence and rapid response capabilities have been instrumental in mitigating the impact of these attacks and in attributing responsibility to state and non-state actors. Here's just some of the Q drops. Again, there are many. The post below this says Q drops and predictions. Q, widely regarded as a high-level insider, has posted numerous cryptic messages known as Q drops that have referenced CrowdStrike, suggesting a deep connection between the cybersecurity firm and alleged deep state activities. Here are some key Q drops and their implications. Drop number 33, which was on November 1st of 2017, Q references Snow White and Corona, indicating CIA programs and hinting that CrowdStrike is involved in shielding these activities. This drop sets the stage for understanding CrowdStrike's alleged deeper connections to intelligence operations. Drop number 37, which was on November 2nd of 2017, Q discusses CrowdStrike's role in the DNC hack and its connections to the Russian collusion narrative. Q implies that CrowdStrike helped fabricate evidence to support the narrative of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election. Drop number 205, which was on November 22nd of 2017, Q links CrowdStrike to the broader Russian hack narrative, suggesting that the firm played a role in creating false evidence. This drop is crucial in understanding the narrative that Q builds around CrowdStrike's involvement in political manipulations. Drop number 647, which was on January 27th of 2018, Q questions why the DNC hired CrowdStrike and highlights the firm's role in attributing the hack to Russia, casting doubt on the validity, of their findings, and suggesting an ulterior motive behind their conclusion. Drop number 1282 on April 27th of 2018, Q explicitly mentions CrowdStrike in the context of the DNC hack and the murder of Seth Rich, suggesting that the company is part of a cover-up operation. This drop directly ties CrowdStrike to the alleged criminal activity surrounding the DNC email leaks. And then drop 1338 on May 10th of 2018, Q suggests that CrowdStrike has a role in a larger state-sponsored cyber operations and points to connections with Ukrainian interests, adding another layer of complexity to their involvement. It just keeps going. Again, it's endless drops here that are all Q-related. There are endless incident summaries and political impacts and transfer speeds, forensic analysis, alternative theories, whistleblowing congressional hearings, DNC hack, attribution, policy advocacy, the whole Seth Rich case and those particular drops. This is a lengthy read. And again, I could go through the entire thing, but I'm going to link it in the description below. I highly recommend it. it should prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that CrowdStrike is a criminal operation, a global criminal operation. With that said, CrowdStrike gets shut down, and the excuse is that they were injecting a software update. And then NBC Today's Show in the morning with Hoda Kotb and that other psycho, Samantha Guthrie, the two of them were allegedly interviewing the CEO of CrowdStrike. And I mean, he was tongue-tied. The guy's throat completely closed up when he was asked about all of this and asked about why all the planes were downed and they had no choice because they were updating a particular thing regarding their entire cybersecurity program and whatever else. Ladies and gentlemen, I find that highly unlikely. It's far more likely that the good guys flat out took over CrowdStrike and sucked all of the information out of CrowdStrike to use against CrowdStrike. That's one angle. Another angle is, if planes are down, then no one can leave. So it begs the question, who was utilizing CrowdStrike in order to leave the country, potentially? Again, this happening the day after the RNC convention. The timing is just, it's too impeccable here. So again, are the good guys behind the scenes in the process of gathering all this information to use against them in a military tribunal? Because let's face it, you can't use a regular judge. You can't use some hodunk county judge or federal judge when it comes to something like this. If you have stone cold proof, you give it to a military tribunal. They show the individuals involved who are there. They say, we've got you dead to rights, and then it's off to the gallows for them, or the shooting range, so to speak. But that has to be what's taking place here. I know that there are endless other people who have basically said the exact same thing, or things like it. But if the good guys got inside of CrowdStrike and took out all of the information that they had available to them or were continuing to gather, certainly with the participation of the bad guys and all the political bad guys that have worked with CrowdStrike in the past, the John Podestas, the Hillary Clintons, the Barack Obamas, and other foreign agencies. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, they've got them all dead to rights. They have to. There's absolutely no other angle, I don't think. Again, the very emotional reaction and the guy's throat closing up on NBC's Today's Show pretty much indicates that this guy knows exactly what happened. They had to throw out an excuse like they were doing a software update. That's not what brought it down. These guys are in the business of cybersecurity. If they want to do a software update, it's seamless. It's absolutely seamless. It doesn't shut everything down all at once and throw mass confusion into the entire system, whether it be banking, airline flights, basic commerce, your ability to swipe a card in a store, whatever it may be. Not to mention, superficially, it proves that we can't have everything running on a computer. Sometimes you just have to, use cash. And that cash is king. And walking around with cash and actually having the person behind the counter count the cash for you in change, that's how business gets done also. So there's more going on here. Again, this is a massive sting operation. Ample evidence that proves that that's the case. So there you go. Not to mention, I think you have to bring this up too, CrowdStrike was probably memory holed by many individuals, and many individuals have no idea who CrowdStrike even is. And in typical white hat fashion, what do? They take something that people typically don't know anything about, unless it's us, of course, and we've dug into these groups before, and we know what these groups are, and we know of their associations, but you take these people and these groups and you thrust them into the public eye. So now you get the so-called normie, or the dead asleep person, actually looking into it for the first time in their entire lives and saying, wow, this seems really suspicious. This seems rather odd. I didn't even know CrowdStrike existed, nor who they were, and now I'm hearing all of what they do and the things they control, and this seems strange. But again, if you're in the business of cybersecurity, any kind of an update would have to be seamless. There's no way that it would shut everything down unless the good guys shut it down without their knowledge. And again, what's CrowdStrike going to do? Are they going to admit that they were shut down by good guys or people outside of their agency? Of course not. It would immediately delegitimize their entire business. So there's way more happening here, is kind of the whole point, and I'll just leave it at that for now. Okay, with that said, let me move to this. I came across this over the weekend, and it was again one of those things that hit me like a freight train. And I thought, this is very alarming. This is something I'm unfamiliar with. I know that data harvesting is a real thing. And I know that government, of course, is putting together profiles on endless Americans, and I'm aware that that's going on. I just didn't know the names that were associated with it. And so I bounced over to Clayton Morris's show Redacted with he and his wife, and Clayton Morris was talking with Whitney Webb. And I like Whitney Webb. She's remarkably intelligent. She doesn't seem to be any kind of a deep state player or a plant of any kind. She's very knowledgeable, works on her own by and large. I'm sure people throw her information from time to time, much like they throw me information, and they throw you information, and everybody's communicating back and forth to some degree, but her research skills are impeccable. And she dove specifically into a company that is run by Peter Thiel called Palantir. And Palantir is just one of these companies that essentially is, again, data harvesting and data mining endless posts from us, whether it be online purchases, online comments, medical records, you name it. It's basically everything. It's our entire digital footprint, both of what we are doing and not doing. And that this is being done in an effort to work with basically the highest bidder, i.e. government and or foreign governments, to ultimately go after or attack or kill even potentially or arrest or lock down American citizens. And again, she dives into it way more specifically than I can on this, which is why I recommend you bounce over to theamericanclassroom.substack.com and check out my last Substack article on this, titled Palantir Mass Surveillance and Pre-Crime. The subtitle was Whitney Webb describes big tech's data harvesting of American citizens and how Americans are unwittingly supporting their own demise. What I actually write in this article is only a few paragraphs just to introduce it. And then there's a 35-minute video of Whitney Webb and Clayton Morris talking in that article. It's a must-watch. If you listen to this show, you have to watch this. And then I link below her entire article as well. I just cut and paste it. I reference it. It's clearly hers. It's not my writing. And she dives into the connections with J.D. Vance and how basically J.D. Vance is kind of the hook in all of this because he's worked with these groups that have been run by Peter Thiel this entire time, along with endless other individuals, including the former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt. It's remarkably dirty, remarkably suspicious. And again, it's data harvesting and it's data mining to profile Americans, among other things. Now, as I say in the article just very briefly, if you take this kind of information and you combine it with the digital twin that is brought up from Sabrina Wallace in her work regarding the weaponization of technology and using, of course, medical records and biotech into all of this with human beings, it's a depopulation agenda and more proof of one. These people are psychos here. Again, the people that affiliate with DARPA and HARP and certainly Palantir and anything that Peter Thiel touches is remarkably dirty. He can't be trusted, I don't think, in the slightest. But again, where this becomes remarkably nefarious as well is that I know that Donald Trump has associated himself with this particular group in the past, certainly when he was in office formally, as we are familiar with, and has had relationships with Peter Thiel in the past before, professional ones, of course. But again, who Peter Thiel has associated himself with is not good. The Epsteins of the world, among many others. Of course, the CIA and foreign agencies, you have to assume. And basically everybody else, not to mention he's backed by these individuals, and it's quite possible that, again, that he's backed by individuals who were surrounding Donald Trump at the time when he was in office as well, and I think Whitney Webb lays that out rather concisely. Before saying too much more, and basically just sort of wrapping this up as best I can, although there's two other groups that I want to mention also that are associated with Palantir, as far as sort of sister companies are concerned. the repeat pattern, I think, that happens with these groups is that day in and day out, they sell this to the unwitting politician as being a, how would I call it? A preventative measure or a national defense measure. Like, this is a good thing that can be used against, the enemies of our country, and gathering this kind of information can help investigators figure out what they need to do and, when they need to do it and who they need to do it to. And unfortunately, that's the selling line on a consistent basis when it comes to these companies. The problem is that as far as government and NGOs are concerned, the enemy of them is us. And they know that. And they know that if we find out what they're doing, they come after us. And then, of course, they engage in all of the things that they engage in, the name calling, you're a conspiracy theorist, and all this other stuff. But communizing these kinds of methods and communizing what these companies offer is the goal, because then, of course, they can sell this information to the highest bidder. They can sell it to foreign agents. Again, they can sell it to individuals within our own government. And they can do this, of course, to target not just businesses or even other governments, but they can do it to target an individual. They don't like what a person is saying. They keep this digital footprint and this digital archive and profile of said individual. And then when they want to pull the trigger, literally and metaphorically against an individual, well, then they can do it because they have everything that they need. They have the travel, the whereabouts, the online footprint, the comments, the pictures, the videos, whatever it is that a person has posted and or seen and or done. They're basically building, again, your so-called digital twin, which of course is exactly what Sabrina Wallace has referenced, and all of the technology that we use, and even more specifically, the bioengineering that's been taking place to whittle away our health. Now, there's two avenues of this in these two separate companies outside of Palantir that I want to mention very quickly. The first one is called Carbyne, Carbyne, and it's carbyne.com. You can check this out yourself. On their website, this is allegedly a sister company of Palantir, and it says the following: mission-critical contact center solutions delivered globally at scale. And it's beyond evident that it is a surveillance program. It says, we are the most secure and interactive cloud-based communications platform for mission control centers. With Carbyne, every person counts. It says their vision is that emergency communication must evolve alongside modern technology, ensuring the same conveniences we enjoy daily, like ordering a car or using AI, are available during crises. Our cloud-native platform innovates continuously, guaranteeing dynamic, urgent communications for swift responses to emergencies. And then, of course, it says that it's trusted by, and it runs through a number of different 911 call centers throughout numerous counties throughout the United States. And it says who we serve, right here on their website. It says, through the power of one platform, we enable call centers to collect and distribute the right information at the right time. Call centers who rely on live, ever-changing information. We assist direct emergency response teams and enterprises that rely on real-time data and collaboration for critical decisions. Our ecosystem of applications delivers all the right tools on one platform. Find out how our customers keep choosing Carbyne and reach out for a demo. Now, here's the thing. The About Us pages on these companies' websites are very, very telling. And as you would expect, they do their best to make it sound like what they provide is state-of-the-art, when in fact, that's not the case. What they are providing actually, in reality, again, is they are an arm of what is clearly a digital footprint and a surveillance system of Americans. And that these kinds of things, of course, as I said earlier, can be sold to the highest bidder. So on the About Us section here for Carbyne, it says, we care. Our team develops safe and reliable public safety solutions for all types of emergencies because every person counts. Well, there you have it. They care about where you're traveling, what you're buying, where are you. And then if they want to find you, they can, and it's not difficult. This is the kill box. This is the same kind of stuff that Catherine, well, hell, what's her name? Catherine Watt. There we go. It's the same stuff that Catherine Watts described regarding the kill box. This is the 15-minute city stuff too, in some extended form, I suppose, but either way, they're selling this as being a security measure. Don't worry, we'll catch that guy who just robbed you because he got in a car and then drove through this intersection and this intersection and that intersection, and we'll be able to find him because we have cameras at every intersection. It's a surveillance state under the guise of being cybersecurity or being just security for us, for the innocent people. That's not what this is, though. It's way more nefarious. It says, foundation of our vision. Emergency communication is not keeping up with modern technology. Why is it? We have the ability to order a car with our phone, video chat with our families, and text with anyone in the world. But we are not able, to do any of those things when personal safety is on the line. Why are these tools available in our everyday lives, but not in moments of real need and urgency? Are they not? Can you not pick up a phone when you need to and dial 911, or just, put a friend in a car and drive to a hospital if you actually have to? Again, this is they're selling this like it's a necessity for security, for everyone's security. It goes on here, it says, so we did something about it. We decided to not just fix it, but to constantly improve it with ongoing updates so urgent communications never becomes stagnant again. We call it relentless innovation. Yeah. You people are just a bunch of dorks who love surveilling Americans and getting paid handsomely for it, I'm sure. It says our technology is built on the cloud, which of course is just someone else's computer. Government, basically. For quick solves and fast integration using an interface that keeps call managers top of mind. It says through the power of one platform, we enable call centers to collect and quickly distribute information. It says this is about Carbyne now. It says Carbyne is a software company that develops cloud-based end-to-end mission-critical contact center solutions. Our mission is to save lives, maximize efficiency, and minimize response times for emergency call takers. The company provides the most advanced technology ecosystems for emergency call handling in the market. Carbyne's technology acts as the gateway for delivering rich and smart data from any device into emergency contact centers. From any device. Any device. It says Carbyne history. It was founded by Amir Elichai, not white, founder and CEO in 2015, following a personal experience that prompted him to disrupt the existing emergency collaboration technology ecosystem. 8 years later, Carbyne employs 160 people who are mostly based in New York headquarters. Tel Aviv is their R&D center, research and development. Tel Aviv and Mexico. LATAM sales. That's right. New York, Tel Aviv, and Mexico. What could possibly go wrong? These people have our best interests at heart, said no one with an effing brain. Funding. It says the company has raised $128 million to date from Hanaco VC, Cox Enterprises, Founders Fund, Valor Equity, and other strategic investors such as Global Medical Response, the largest emergency management services provider in the United States, backed by KKR, General David Petraeus, and more. There you go. David Petraeus. He was a traitor, was he not? As a former general in the United States Army? What is happening here? Why do people just blindly accept this shit? Transforming emergency communication, Carbyne enables mission-critical centers to use an advanced call management platform to unify the flow of information from all channels to a single, whatever that is, I-JI. This UI is tailored for a seamless flow between every channel. With our cloud platform, everything can plug in. Everything can evolve, and everyone can make better decisions. It's all jargon. It's mass surveillance done by Jews in America and Tel Aviv and Mexico. That's what it is. This isn't good. I wish Whitney Webb would say Khazarian Mafia and Jewish lobby and all of that. I mean, it would be nice to hear her say that. Same thing with Clayton Morris, but they know who this is. This is Jewish. This is funded by them. It's facilitated by them. It's sold in America as, again, being a security measure that we can't live without because, again, our greatest ally has our best interests at heart, 9/11. So why on earth would they ever want to hurt us at all, ever again, 9/11? Give me a break. It's awful. Now, speaking of just that, and it's not just 911 call centers and mass surveillance. No. It's medical as well. So I came across this one. This is ARPA-H. Sounds like HARP or DARPA, but they've just mixed the letters around. This stands for the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health. This is the About page of ARPA-H.gov. Ask yourself whether or not this sounds good or like we need this. It says the Advanced Research Project Agency for Health, or ARPA-H, ARPA-H, accelerates better health outcomes for everyone by supporting the development of high-impact solutions to society's most challenging health problems. Then their Our Plan section says the following, quote, ARPA-H's fiscal year 24 through 26 strategic plan provides a blueprint detailing the agency's approach to catalyzing the next generation of life-saving treatments to improve the health and well-being of all Americans. Read the full plan here, and there's a link. Our Health Equity Fact Sheet. Of course, they have to work that word in. ARPA-H is committed to advancing health outcomes for all, supporting innovative solutions to a broad range of health challenges, and paving the way for life-saving treatments through inclusive engagement and intentional design of programs that ensure accessibility and customer experience are key tenets. ARPA-H aims to ensure access to solutions regardless of demographics or geography, leveraging diverse perspectives for sustained equity across our policy practices and programs. Read our fact sheet here. Okay, I have to stop briefly. I hope that you can read through the lines here and read through this. They want to kill you. That's what this is. They want to make sure that they have a seamless approach into giving you the thing that they tell you you need in order to survive, i.e., COVID shots, among endless other things. And they're specifically saying, don't worry, we're equitable. That's code language for, we want to kill minorities first, and then we'll come after you whites next, or at the same time, because let's face it, some of you will be equally as gullible as others. So if we can get you all in the same boat, drinking in the same Kool-Aid at the same time, with our seamless approach to sustainability, then they've got everybody right where they want them. And they do this with messaging, surveillance, a medical digital footprint of everybody. Whitney Webb even lays this out in her talk with Clayton Morris. She says they know who took the shots, they know who didn't. They know where the messages and the evil propaganda needs to be set first and foremost, and then where it needs to be amplified from a geographic standpoint, because they have everybody mapped out. They know who the compliant and the non-compliant are. This, of course, is why they know exactly where to drop off illegal aliens. I mean, you have, I could go off on that too, but that's all part of this. They know what geographic locations exist where there are more compliant politicians, quote unquote, and or citizens. They have all of this leveraged. It goes on, it says who we are. ARPA-H advances high potential, high impact biomedical and health research that cannot be readily accomplished through traditional research or commercial activity. ARPA-H awardees are developing entirely new ways to tackle the hardest challenges in health. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an NGO that works with government behind the scenes, so to speak, even though there's a website for these people. And they are the ones who, again, ultimately filter this information to groups like HHS, the CDC, so on and so on. Who's to say that these individuals weren't responsible for the COVID bioweapons? They had to have been. And at the very least, they were responsible for the messaging and participated in some of that too. This is disgusting. These people have to go. These companies have to be destroyed. All of them. Here's what it says. It says, what we do. It says, with the scope spanning the molecular to the societal, ARPA-H programs have the potential to radically improve everyone's health. Now, do you believe that? It says our streamlined awards process enables us to act quickly and catalyze cutting-edge biomedical and health research. That means make poison in a lab and sell it to you as a so-called vaccine and or solution to your problem. Or a preventative measure for something that doesn't even exist. It says, how do we do it? Or how we do it, rather. ARPA-H creates an environment to support the best ideas from program managers that bring together dynamic teams to solve the toughest health challenges. Our rigorous program design, competitive project selection process, and active program management ensures thoughtful and impactful expenditures. ARPA-H program managers serve for limited terms to ensure a constant infusion of fresh thinking and new perspectives. Boom. Boom. Oh my God, I can't believe they just admitted it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to reread that. The last sentence in the how we do it. It says ARPA-H program managers serve for limited terms to ensure a constant infusion of fresh thinking and new perspectives. No. That's the PR explanation for we keep you around until you figure out what we're really doing and then we cut your ass loose. That's what that means. And no, I'm not paranoid. That's what that means. That's what these groups do. That's what they do with chemtrail pilots. They have them flying around, telling them that it's good for the atmosphere and that what they're dumping on people is good for cloud seeding and creating weather that helps farmers and blah, 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 blah. Until said pilot starts to ask too many questions. And then the pilot either loses their job permanently or their entire family, if they have one, gets moved to a separate location in the United States. Because if they start asking too many questions as the participant in the activity or people around them, and let's face it, they're surveilling the people around them. When they surveil the people around them and those people start to ask too many questions of that family and what that family is doing and why that guy is a pilot and what exactly do they fly and, who do they fly for and blah, blah, blah. As soon as that happens, their boss gets a phone call from an outside agency that's been surveilling them and tells them that they need to move and that they're changing their work location. Not to mention, with chemtrail pilots specifically, and with, I should say even, organizations like this, ARPA-H, And even the previous ones I've mentioned, you have to fit a very specific psychological profile in order to work there. They don't just hire anybody. You can't just contact these people and be like, hey, I'm fresh out of college. I need a job. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. These people find the people that they want to work there. They find you because they're already surveilling people. They already have digital footprints of these individuals. They're already tracking individuals that fit a particular psychological profile and have a particular kind of makeup. That usually has to do with a number of things. One, the person is incapable of asking questions. Two, the individual has absolutely no morals or values whatsoever. And three, they're remarkably gullible. And they have to think to themselves, well, I'm doing this for the greater good, and they say that we're helping people, so that must be exactly what we're doing. That also is exactly what Sabrina Wallace has brought up with endless college individuals. She said it in her presentations. They specifically target youth to help facilitate the larger agenda of the people who are really running these programs and these companies from the top, because again, it makes the youth feel like they're valuable in some way, when in fact they're just being brainwashed and used in order to destroy their fellow humans and their fellow peers and Americans. But they think that it's an excellent line on a resume. Right out of college, I worked for this giant corporation and we were engaging in health breakthroughs and blah, blah, blah. And then they believe it. You've heard me tell again that story of when I was in Australia, encountering and listening to these young gals who were, again, young adults working for the UN, and they were bragging about it constantly. I thought to myself, these people don't know that the UN is the largest child trafficking organization that exists in the world. But they're like, well, I just got back from the UN because I work with the UN. I'm going, why would you say that? You would only say it if you actually believed that the thing you're doing is helping people, when clearly it isn't. Now get a load of this. This is our research section of ARPA-H. It says, pursuing health breakthroughs. Again, ask yourself if any of this sounds good. Because it isn't. It's just not. Pursuing health breakthroughs, quote, the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, or ARPA-H, provides research funding to build high payoff capabilities or platforms to drive biomedical breakthroughs, ranging from the molecular to societal. Let that sink in. Societal breakthroughs. That means changing the mind of the human. Training people to be compliant. Training individuals through manufactured crises and fake medicine in order to be compliant. And then, of course, have those conversations among one another, specifically in working environments where no one's thinking. Cubicle jobs, companies, etc., etc. Close-knit organizations where people are around each other all the time, so that if you knock over one of those dominoes from a mental and emotional standpoint, the rest of them fall. We saw this all play out in 2020, did we not? That was hook, line, and sinker for all of this. That's what they mean by biomedical breakthroughs on a societal level. These, again, I'm starting to rub my face here. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Has got to go. These groups have got to go. They have to be destroyed. The people that work for them have to be destroyed. Our company, well, it is, unfortunately, and it's a failing one. But our country is completely infiltrated by the Jewish lobby and the Khazarian mafia. We know this. I mean, this is not news to anybody who listens to this show. This is exactly why we have to keep calling these people out, and we cannot waver. We can't waver on any of this. Again, this is going to stretch a little bit into what I have planned here for the next episode on Wednesday, along with some other things, but we can't allow them to just name call us And we have to shut these people down to their faces if they attempt to do so when we expose them for who they are and what they're doing. None of this is good. It's an open admission that they seek to subvert human beings and their ability to think and or behave or act, and then misdiagnose them on purpose, to then give them something that the human is gullible enough to believe is actually the solution to their problem, when in fact it will further their own demise. This is beyond alarming. It continues, it says that will provide transformative solutions for all individuals. It says the focus areas below illustrate the types of work and impact that ARPA-H may pursue as it hires its first program managers. Now get a load of this. Here are the focus areas. None of these are good. The first one is health science futures. And their description says, expanding what's technically possible, accelerating advances across research areas, and removing limitations that stymie progress towards solutions. The tools that platforms develop apply to a broad range of diseases. Unquote. Now, let me translate. Accelerating advances across research areas and removing limitations that stymie progress towards solutions means we're going to tell your doctor what they need to give you without your doctor thinking about it, and then you will take it because your doctor said so. We're going to bypass research and development for real cures, real natural cures for real things, and we will create problems with you not knowing that we're actually creating the problem in order to kill you. That's all that means. And develop and apply to a broad range of diseases, unquote, so they say. That means, again, they're in the business of building illness. Again, viruses don't exist. They're just in the business of making poison. It's an open admission if you can read through the lines here. Scalable solutions is the next one. Reaching everyone quickly. Remember, this is not just molecular they're talking about. This is societal. This has to do with, again, the mental engineering of individuals and groups of people. Scalable solutions reaching everyone quickly. It says, quote, addressing challenges that include geography, distribution, manufacturing, data and information, and economies of scale to create programs that result in impactful, timely, and equitable solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, every word I read is more alarming here. They rolled this out in 2020, and certainly in 2021. That's exactly what this was. Now they're doubling down with this particular group because they want to do it again. They want everybody to take the same thing at the same time, to wipe them out at the same time. And if you're non-compliant, they have a plan for us too. And yes, when they say equitable, that means, don't worry, if you don't have access, we'll come to your front doorstep. And we'll put as many jabs in your body and as many pills in your body as humanly possible. This dates back to the thing that I brought up on this show a long time ago regarding the poop box. The old colon test poop box that shows up at your front door or in your mailbox, where they say poop in a box, and then put the poop back in the box, and then send it back to us, and we'll test it, and we'll take your DNA, and then we'll send you a letter. And that letter isn't going to say that you're healthy. No. You're going to believe us because we're an NGO. We're a medical NGO. And we work with Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera, and all these other conglomerates that attempt to control everybody. And then we're going to send you a letter, and in that letter it's going to say that you need to go get your colon tested, and you need to have a camera and a tube put up your backside, and then be on medicine, and then whatever else, and then have your colon scraped. And then when they do that, well, they're taking bits of your colon out. And then what happens after that? All of a sudden, you have colon problems. Where never before, you never had a colon problem in your entire life. And it was all because you fell for the old poop in the box trick. You see what I'm saying here? It's right here. It's in their own words. Here's the next one. Proactive health. Ah, yes. The word proactive. They have to work that in too. Keeping people from being patients, they say. Bullshit. It says, quote, reducing the likelihood that people become patients. Preventative programs will create new capabilities to detect and characterize disease risk and promote treatments and behaviors to anticipate threats to Americans' health, whether those are viral, bacterial, chemical, physical, or psychological. They don't even hide it. They're not even hiding it. They're telling you that they're not just a medical agency, so they say. They're a geoengineering / mental engineering, societal engineering NGO. That they are interested in changing the minds of people by making everything ubiquitous. And if you're not doing what we're doing, then there's something wrong with you. And then, of course, just like we saw in 2020 and the years after, getting Americans to be pinned against one another on a constant basis and be divisive, both within their own immediate families, leading to divorce, because one person wanted to take the COVID bioweapon and the other one didn't. And the one that didn't told the other one to not take it, but they took it anyway and now they're dead, or they're divorced as a result. Completely destroying families, completely destroying bloodlines, completely destroying the ability for people to reproduce and have children, and those people can't seem to figure out why they can't have kids. Honest to Christ, this is happening right here, and they're writing it down. They're writing it down. And like Whitney Webb said, no one's talking about this. This is a problem, and that's putting it mildly. Here's the next one, and it's the last one actually. Resilient systems. That means they aren't quitting. Building integrated healthcare systems. Developing capabilities, business models, which means your business is going to have to do this, and we'll tell HR that you have to do this, and your managers will then tell you have to do this, and all you cubicle dummies are going to have to do it, and you're not going to have a choice. That's what that means when they say developing capabilities and business models. And then it says, and integrations to endure crises such as pandemics, social disruption, and economic instability. That don't worry if you're down on your luck with money or a job, we'll still serve you the best that we can, i.e., we'll kill you. And then, of course, social disruptions. What do they mean by that? That term social disruptions is in all the UN documents. It's in all the WEF, WHO documents that I've read here on the show. Same thing. It means if you disagree with what we're saying and or doing, we have a plan for you also. That we have workarounds. So that if there's the dissenting voice, in a work environment, don't worry, we have ways of quieting them down. And we, as a NGO health conglomerate, quote unquote, are going to help that company understand that they need to get rid of the undesirables. Ladies and gentlemen, they did this shit back when I was a K-12 school teacher. It was the same strategy. I had no idea what they were doing. I had no idea this is how deep it went. But this is DARPA level stuff, because that's what basically ARPA-H essentially is. They just take the D out and they replace it with an H to make it sound like they care about everybody's health. Capital H, health. That's not what it is. It's about compliance. They monetarily reward people for doing what the group is doing. They penalize you monetarily if you're not doing what the group is doing, and then they take their lackeys in their working environments and they bully you into compliance. Whether it be emails that you consistently receive, don't forget to get your blood drawn, don't forget to get your flu shot, don't forget to get your COVID shot, etc., etc., etc. But then they come by your little cubicle station and they knock on your cubicle like Lumbergh in Office Space. Peter, how's it going? And then, again, I haven't seen those TPS reports, Peter. It's the same thing. It's the same approach. They have a strategy for manipulating people. That's what this is. It's an open admission to it. Honest to God, this is so evil. This is so evil that it shouldn't surprise anybody. It just shouldn't. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave the episode there. I'm going to end this episode at that. It's a shorter one, but ladies and gentlemen, the groups that I just went over very superficially, okay, are Palantir, Carbyne, and ARPA-H. Please do what you can to move this episode around and tell people about this kind of stuff, because if they're wondering why things are the way that they are, why did you experience what you experienced in your working environment or among your family or when you were in a grocery store or wherever it is? It's these kinds of people that are doing this. It's these NGOs that are working hand in hand with our government, our three-letter agencies, and foreign entities, and being funded by all of them to kill us. That's why you can still go into a grocery store like Kroger's today, and over the PA system, they will still tell people, make sure and get your COVID shot, make sure and get your flu shot. Flu season's coming up. You want to make sure and avoid, getting the flu. And then they promote all their other drugs and all their other panic just over the PA system. That's the social engineering that's going on and continues to go on. And these people are contracted to do it because it's their motive. It's their mission. It's in their vision statement. I just read it to you. It's right there. It's the same stuff. By the way, let me mention this very quickly too. I got a post from a previous guest on the show that openly states that Ozempic, those weight loss shots, have mRNA in them. That there are messenger RNA Ozempic shots. Does that surprise anybody? Is anybody shocked by that? It's actual written documentation that proves that to be the case. There was also this, just in conclusion, and we know this to be true, and we know that this isn't new. But the Free Thought Project the other day, this would have been last week on July 17th, it put out an article that was titled Bombshell DHS, Department of Homeland Security document, proves pandemic lockdowns planned in 2007. It says the document amounts to a full-blown corporatist imposition on the United States, abolishing anything remotely resembling the Bill of Rights and constitutional law. Yes, we are aware. We know this. I've been over these documents before in the past. Again, it names a bunch of different names of the people who all went along with this. And frankly, the list is endless, as are the different NGOs that all went along with this. And then, of course, what does this end up doing? It lands right in the lap of your average, unwitting American citizen who doesn't know any better. I'm telling you, the war goes on here. The war rages on. Let's not, again, I'm off of the Donald Trump assassination storyline thing. I'm off of it. It's too odd. I even saw a clip the other day regarding that movie Idiocracy, where they have Terry Crews, the actor Terry Crews, and he's dressed up again like a wrestler, and he comes out during a political speech and rallies up the crowd and tells everybody what's going to happen. And then, of course, you had Hulk Hogan at the RNC convention basically doing the exact same thing. Are we being played? I don't know. But what I do know is that there are a lot of moving parts here, and there's a lot of exposure. And we wouldn't be here exposing all of this stuff if there weren't a lot of different particular programs and intelligence drops and a number of other things that, of course, taken us down these paths to hopefully warn the American people as to what's really happening. And it's the old meme. Whatever comes next, do not comply. Just don't comply. Stay away from these health agencies. Stay away from doctors and hospitals. Stay away from all of it. And recognize the social engineering and the predictive programming, so to speak, that's consistently happening. And please understand, it is not an accident. It is all a giant on purpose. Again, in the description below for this episode, I will link that entire Chanboard post on CrowdStrike and the Q drops associated with it, along with the Seth Rich history and a number of other things that are all embedded in that. If you're interested in giving that a read and checking it out, I highly recommend it. I will also link my last Substack regarding Palantir and the work of Whitney Webb. Again, she's way more versed in it than I, and she's done way more research on it than anybody I know. And it's all going to be right there for you to read. Again, you can read her latest article on it. It'll take you right to her actual website itself, where the link is. I highly recommend bookmarking that and giving her articles a read. And then, of course, make sure that you watch the 35-minute video with Clayton Morris and her talking about Palantir, Peter Thiel, the funders, and everything that they are actually doing. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on Wednesday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.